investments and tax planning. And what you're looking at here is our home page of our website where you can get more information about our firm and our contact information. So if you're looking for us and you end up here, you're in the right spot. But today's video is for Home Depot employees, and we're going to discuss the importance of aligning your 401k investment portfolio with your risk tolerance. You can see here that we're logged into the Orange Life website where you manage your 401k and other benefits. So if you go to the Investments tab and the Fund Performance tab, you'll see your investment lineup, really what's a limited selection of investment choices to choose from. But even with that limited selection, you have to wonder, well, which investments are appropriate for me and when are they appropriate? You can use the set it and forget it method with these life path options based on your approximate expected retirement year. But not everyone retiring in the same year has the same risk tolerance, of course, let alone the same goals and objectives. So, you could go the more involved route and select some investments yourselves and hope you don't screw it up, right? But here are your choices as far as US stocks and international stocks, a couple of indexes there between large, small, and mid caps. And then, of course, you can choose Home Depot stock, and you probably have some in your 401k already. Or you might look at using the Schwab Personal Choice Retirement Account as a self-directed brokerage account, and that I'll do a video in the future about your options there. That's an option for you to manage your money yourself or with us. So in a couple minutes, I'll show you an example portfolio using some of the index funds that are shown here in your 401k website. But first, let's take a look at Riskalyze, the software that we use in order to score client risk tolerance and client portfolios. So what you're going to see over on the left is that when we enter you in our system, there is a question mark for your risk number. And so we have to answer a questionnaire in order to score you, and then our system will update that section with your particular risk number, and then we'll look at your portfolio and whether it aligns with your risk, and we will design a portfolio for you, should you want us to, that is accurate to your risk number. So the way we do this to begin with is we answer a risk questionnaire right here. I'm going to add a questionnaire to the system for this particular sample client. And generally when we're doing this questionnaire, we'll email it to you. So we'll use a simple questionnaire. It's brief and it's something that you can do on your own very easily. If I walk you through a questionnaire or I'm sitting with a client or doing an online meeting, sometimes I'll use the detailed questionnaire. It gets a little bit more in depth. But let's go ahead and add you in here as client, and we'll launch the simple questionnaire. Now, very importantly, you want the investment amount to be accurate because the system's going to measure your tolerance for risk, and that's really a measure of the variance in your account value. So as your account value fluctuates, you're going to feel either happy or upset about that fluctuation, right? So this dollar value needs to be something accurate to what your actual portfolio value is, so that it reflects your risk tolerance for your existing portfolio. So let's use an example of a $200,000 401k portfolio. And I'll go ahead and launch that right now so you can see it. And this is what the survey looks like to begin with. You can indicate a couple of priorities that you might have, like retirement and wealth accumulation, for example. You can also then in this next box indicate if there are any major expenses coming up, like perhaps the purchase of a vehicle or a vacation home, or maybe there's going to be an inheritance you expect that might impact your retirement income later on. Here's where you want to double check the amount in this box, make sure it's an accurate amount for you. Perhaps you might receive the email from us and no amount has been there because we don't know your portfolio value, so you then want to enter it before proceeding. Entering an birthday and retirement age will allow our retirement income planning module in this software called Retirement Map to actually do a nice projection for you about whether you'll run out of money at certain withdrawal rates in retirement under certain portfolio assumptions and withdrawal rates. So it can be a useful tool for you down the line. I'll just start with, say, a patriotic birthday of July 4th, 1964, somewhere around 55 years old today, and maybe a retirement age of 65, for example. Now we're going to get into the risk scoring portion of the software, where we're asked how much risk can you handle in 6 months. And so you want to begin with something that's a comfortable range for you. Perhaps you're thinking, well, I can handle 16% to the downside and 16% to the upside, or maybe no, I really can only handle 6% to the downside with an upside potential of 6%. I'm gonna do something moderate, kind of in between those numbers here. I'd say 8% to the downside and 8% to the upside. So over the next 6 months, you're saying you're comfortable risking $15,800 of fluctuation to the downside in exchange for $15,800 potential gain to the upside. Again, this is just a starting point. We're going to make some adjustments as we go through the exercise. All right, so what if you can improve upon that? And our original choice of 8% down and 8% up is somewhere in that range, is in the middle. But the choices to the left and to the right will improve upon that. So if we were to move left, we would see that we could have less risk with the same upside of 8%. And here the risk is reduced to 5% to the downside. So in any event, that's a better scenario than our original choice because we can still get 8% to the upside, but with only taking 5% downside risk. Or on the right-hand side, we could have more reward with the same original risk of 8% to the downside, but here we pick up 5 additional percentage points potentially to the upside with a 13% upside. So for sake of this demonstration, I'm going to go ahead and choose the one on the right. And then we'll see, all right, the engine has now given us an additional choice. We can go to even more reward, but we'd have to accept more risk. Now, in looking at this, we get 4% more reward to the upside with only adding 3% more to the downside. So perhaps that looks attractive to me. And I'll go ahead and expand my downside risk by 3 percentage points to get that additional 4% to the upside. Then the software engine will ask us one more question. Well, what if we could get 18% to the upside, but we'd have to take on 12% to the downside? Well, maybe I'm not comfortable with that. So I'm going to stay with my last choice of 11% to the downside and 17% to the upside. All right, so in making that selection, I see that I'm scored with a risk number of 54. And that says, all right, I find 11% to the downside, or $21,000 acceptable over a 6-month period in exchange for a 17% upside potential over that 6-month period. It's important to note that this is within a 95% confidence range. There can be those outliers, of course, where 2.5% of the time we could end up outside the range to the downside, and 2.5% outside the range to the upside, which nobody ever complains about that, of course, right? But so with a 95% confidence, we expect to be somewhere in between that 11% downside or 17% upside if we build a portfolio to a risk number of 54. Now, if that doesn't feel like you think, no, that's really not accurate, you could say, well, I'll try again, and I'll go back and make some different selections, right? But if that does feel like a comfortable range for you, you can go ahead and hit yes, that feels like me. Now, when you do that, it sends back to our system that score of 54. We get notified that you've completed the questionnaire, and we can go in to your we can go into your profile in Riskalyze and see, oh, okay, yes, you've answered the questionnaire. And of course, on this sample client, we've done one before that came in at a 52. So I'm going to go ahead and say, yeah, that's right. We're going to confirm it as your advisor. And now your profile shows not a question mark, but a risk number of 54 for you in our system. And we can now manage your portfolio to that risk number. The way in which we do that is we're going to go ahead and take a look at your portfolio, current portfolio. And I mentioned earlier when in the Live the Orange Life website there, your 401k website, I mentioned we'd take a look at an example portfolio using some of those funds. So let's say that you've done this risk questionnaire, and now we want to identify whether your portfolio aligns with your actual risk tolerance. And you shoot us over a statement or send us an email with the allocations you've got, and we see, all right, you're 35% invested in the S&P 500 index fund. That's that large cap index in your 401k. Maybe you're 30% in the international index. That's the all world ex-US stocks index. And then maybe you're 25% in the small and mid cap index, which is closely aligned to the Vanguard mid cap index here. And then perhaps you've got 10% in Home Depot stock, for example. So if that was the case, that was your current 401k portfolio, we can plug that into our software and see that, all right, your current portfolio has a risk number of 75. And that's obviously a bit misaligned with your risk tolerance that you answered in the questionnaire of 54. Now, what does that mean, though, being misaligned? Recall that with your risk number of 54, you said you'd be comfortable with an 11% downside risk in the portfolio, but here with a 75 risk number on your portfolio, you may experience a 16.5% downside risk. So it's fully about 5 percentage points more to the downside risk that you're accepting. Now, in exchange for that, you're getting 8% more to the upside, and that rather than 17% upside, you have a potential of 25% upside, of course, over time. And again, 95% probability that you'd be within this range, 6 months on the road. Again, there can be those outliers where you're outside of that range. Take a 2008, for example. But in order to manage your portfolio correctly to your risk number of 54, we need to make some adjustments in a portfolio like this. So we'll go into our software and we'll build a proposed portfolio out for you. And in this current proposal, we've got that aligned to a 53. Let's see if we were to align that to a 54. How's that? Okay. So if we wanted to target a portfolio with a risk number of 54, we would essentially put 42% into equities and 58% into fixed income. And these are proprietary model portfolios that we build for our clients. So, there'd be investments that I'm continuously managing for our clients, and then we would essentially allocate you to them according to your risk number. So what you see here, by having 58% in our fixed income investments and 42% in our equities, which are all globally diversified, we can target in your portfolio to a risk number of 54. Again, well, what does that mean for you, right? Well, it means that over the next 6 months, we have a 95% probability that we'll be within this range that you see here, which is about 10.5% to the downside and a little more than, almost 18% to the upside. And so now with a reasonable degree of confidence what to expect from your investment portfolio over the next 6 months. And as you feel different about your money, as you feel different about your particular financial circumstances, or even different about your job prospects or what's going on in the economy, we can always revisit the questionnaire and adjust your risk number. And when we get an adjusted risk number from you, guess what I do? I go in and I adjust your portfolio to match that and be appropriate for whatever's going on in your life that's causing you to feel different about the amount of risk you want to take in your 401k. So that is pretty much how we use Riskalyze software to line up your portfolio with your precise risk tolerance. And that way you always know what to expect from what's going on in your 401k, what goes on in the markets. You're going to be somewhere within a range that's comfortable for you. So that pretty much wraps up looking at how we score your risk tolerance and then score your portfolio. You know, in future videos, I'll discuss the very best strategy for taking advantage of dollar cost averaging in your 401k. There are important ways in which you can set yourself up for success there. And then in future videos, I'll also show you how you can open up a Schwab Personal Choice Retirement Account, the PCRA, inside your 401k. If you'd like me to manage your investments for you. In the meantime, you know, feel free to contact us via the information on our website or schedule a phone call or online meeting via the link to my calendar below. So on this web page, there's a link to that, and you can just book a call with me or an online meeting like this where we do a screen share and video and all of that if you'd like. But anyway, I look forward to conversation with you, and until then, I wish you all the best.